If you're not measuring your strategy performance, you will not reach your strategy goals. Like anything in business and anything you're trying to achieve, a personal goal, you need to measure how you're delivering, how you're performing on your journey. Are you getting closer or are you going off track? This is an important point, but then what's more important is what to measure. And the big concern is always going into measuring everything to ensure you cover all angles. But unfortunately, when you measure EPI, like in every performance indicators, you lose sight of the key performance indicators. So it's so important to narrow that field so you're really focused and targeted on the key metrics that will help you deliver on your goals. Now, will they stay static all the time? Absolutely not. A key proportion will be, but the importance is you may not always know what those key are in the beginning. The goal of going on the journey is to find out. So when I talk about metrics when it comes to strategy, I always talk about taking the holistic approach to it. So you want to build a framework, just as we talked about when building a strategy, you need a framework. We need a metric or performance management framework too. So that very much looks like a normal business or business area balanced scorecard. And there's probably 3 or 4 things that I like to ensure that are performing along my journey, right? And that includes obviously the things you're trying to achieve, but the key things for me is I always look at people, I look at your customers, and I look at the operations from a number of different perspectives, and then obviously finance. So let's look at them all. When you're talking about employee engagement, well, how do you measure? It's a question I get asked a lot. How do you measure employee engagement? Now, it's a really good question. There are multiple ways, but this is more on the qualitative side as opposed to quantitative. So you do this by like your gut instincts mostly, and there are things you can measure, but here's the thing. When I'm looking at employee engagement, I'm looking at my managers to see, well, how are you engaging with your teams one-on-one, right? Are they motivated? Do you know they're working towards something, or are they just coming in exchanging time for money? That's one of the first things I get my managers to keep an eye on. And are they happy? Is there something going on in their life that you want to be sure of? But here's the other thing. Once you build a strategy, you want to make sure your teams are motivated for that strategy. And that's all about talking to them. Are they bought into it? Do they believe in it? Did you bring them on that journey to develop it, more importantly? Because if you didn't, you're not going to bring them with you long term. So these are important questions to start asking and continue asking all the way through the journey. The other thing I also like to talk about is cross-functional excellence. So not just about having project teams within a department, but cross-functional, like project teams across the entire business, the end-to-end business. So they're just a few examples that I want to look at, and probably actually one more that I like to consider is how many times they're helping their colleagues. Is there a culture of reciprocation, getting that law of reciprocation where people help each other, because helping people are happy people are performing people. So that's employee engagement, and that's a big one for me. The other thing I like to talk about is process and performance, right? And then obviously capacity management, because any strategy should involve improving your operational performance. So if you want to develop more profits and cash flow, a great way of doing that is not just looking outwards for more business, but also tightening up your process. And that can involve reducing your lead times. So when you reduce your lead times, you invoice quicker. And when you invoice quicker, you get paid quicker. That talks about cash flow, right? The other thing then is when you're talking about performance in terms of how many parts per hour or whatever. But it's the same with your service. How efficiently can you deliver your service for your clients? Because the more efficient you get at that, the more you can do within the same time frame. And that's when we talk about capacity. So by looking at operational performance, not only do you reduce costs per part or per service, but you also create capacity. And then by working on them, you're then giving your business flexibility to put more sales in without actually having to create more extra capacity in the business. So you're actually scaling your business without scaling your costs. And I think this is probably the most important part of a scaling strategy, to be able to do it without increasing your costs in the beginning. That's the first step. So it's really important to look at performance, quality, and turnaround times. They're sort of the key basic ones that I want. And quality, by the way, I mean, like, so say, just to give a manufacturing example, if I have to make 100 parts per day to deliver on my customer commitments, I'm talking about making sure you don't do 150 per day to make those 100. You know, you want to make sure that you're only making just over the 100, so your right first time count is really strong. And then finally, you're talking about like the financial success of any strategy. That's the whole point of doing it. And again, we've talked about this before in terms of it's not just outward but inward. We've just talked about the inward. But again, it's all about increasing sales, increasing customers, increasing more business with existing customers, reducing your cost per part so you're creating more profit inwardly. So these are all the things that will determine financial success. And when you look at this, yes, there will be short-term successes you need to be able to look at, but also if you have to invest some money, there could be a net loss in the beginning before you see that gain. So it's extremely important to understand whatever pot of cash you put aside, that then you can measure, well, this is what I've done and this will be my return on investment in 3, 6, 9 or 12 months, and create those views. And again, you could be prepared to be at an operating loss with this strategy for 3 to 6 months. That's okay if you know come 9 months it'll turn around, your cost has been refunded to it. So it's very important to start tracking these things, because again, you don't want to get to the end of the year to find out, okay, that didn't work. You want to look at these leading and lagging metrics. What can you do today that will impact tomorrow? So it's important to look at all these areas to ensure you're improving little by little over the short term, medium term or long term. You do not wait till the end to get this information. Whatever you can influence real time, you do that. This is crucial to any strategy performance management activity. So to recap, measure often, get feedback, tweak, measure employment, engagement, measure capacity management, operational efficiency, and then obviously the financial success. I hope this makes sense. If you've got any questions, please get in touch. I'd love to help.